1976, when there was the Soweto uprising, and there's a famous picture of Hector Peterson that was killed. I was only 10 years old. And I grew up in a middle-class environment where we had a nice house and a swimming pool and green grass, and we only got television in 1976. So all I was interested when I was little was my friends and sports, and I didn't really know politically what was going on because we didn't have television, and obviously the radio stations didn't inform us. So when you came from a middle-class background, you were very protected to what was happening around. But there were these yellow vans that used to travel around the suburbs asking black people for their passbooks. So if you didn't have permission to be in a specific area, you would be arrested. And I always had the feeling that these yellow vans were not good. Yeah, and then also I suppose part of my influence for my work is that in South Africa you used to grow up with a domestic worker. Mm-hmm. So the lady that we grew up with, she looked after my mother when she was little, and then she looked after us. And we never went to where she lived or knew her home. We knew her grandson. So I suppose photography very much for me became the vehicle to understand and discover my country. It was an incredible experience because if you think of it, I was witnessing firsthand what was happening in like the most historical moment in South Africa. So, you would go to, even my friend and I, even if we did not have an assignment, we were out there photographing what was happening. We went to rallies, we went to marches, whatever was happening, we photographed. And, you stood like not very far from Nelson Mandela, mm-hmm. photographing him and watching him and listening to him. But at the same time, there was also a lot of trauma because I witnessed Ken Oosterbroek, who gave me my first job in photography, he was killed in the crossfire, and Gary Bernard, who I was at school, photographic school with, he committed suicide, and Kevin Carter committed suicide, and Abdul Sharif was killed in the crossfire. These were my colleagues, but at the same time, leading up to the elections, many, many people died. So it was also a traumatic time. It depends on the project. So, for example, survivors of domestic violence, I used 3 different triptychs, which included a portrait, included environmental shots, where other projects are just portraits, like Real Beauty. And then, like the project I'm doing now, will be quite different. So I think I prefer the collaboration. I prefer spending quality 3 hours with you, finding out who you are, working with you, giving you a print of the photograph. For me, that's become more interesting. I don't really want to spend days and months within a community anymore. I spent a lot of time doing that. And it's just not the way I want to communicate, I suppose, visually, the way I want to do things. It's just yeah, it's another method of, I suppose, communicating what I want to say. It's a way of telling what you feel about the world and allowing people to interpret that, who maybe never get to see what's happening in the world, and maybe to I don't know, to gain something, to gain some knowledge, or maybe change their perception. So that's why I think I'm a photographer, and I'm not there to document. I think that's another important thing, maybe why I'm doing portraits. I'm not there to show you how people are living, because I think we know that. Mm-hmm. I think I'm more like a vessel, or that people can tell me what they're thinking, and I put it into the photographs. Not only the photographs, but maybe if I use sound or text or whatever. So, yeah, that's what it is for me. It's communicating what I think about the world, and I do it in a visual way. Because we aren't shown the truth from a very young age, because we keep growing up with the vision of perfection. We want to be perfect. So if we're a little bit fatter, or we've got a scar or whatever, it's so hard for women to accept themselves. But the reality is no one is perfect, not even the models that we see in the magazines. They've also got flaws, and so that's why it was important for me. And I just wanted people for firstly, women to acknowledge that beauty also comes with imperfection, and I suppose to start a conversation about what is beauty and what is beautiful. You see, when I met Bibi Aisha, you never know really what's going to happen. I mean, not in a million years. You go there and you're looking at the situation, and I'm trying to make Bibi Aisha feel comfortable, and it's also visually, it's a little bit dark. There's a whole range of things that are happening on the ground behind the scenes. And you never think, I mean, when I took that photograph, I thought Time magazine would be unhappy because I didn't show her ears that had been cut off. I didn't show her as a victim. Mm-hmm. And I thought they're going to not like the photograph that I took. So I went upstairs, I phoned the journalist and said, I think I've made it, a bad photograph, and that Time won't like it. So you never know what's going to happen. But what did happen was incredible in a way for many different reasons. One is that Bibi Aisha did get to America, which is the most important thing, has a changed life. She's been operated on her nose and ears at the Walter Reed Hospital. She lives with an Afghan-American family, so she has a new life. When I won the award, it really helped me to communicate about what my work is about, what I'm doing. So I was very blessed in that way, because I think that sometimes we think, well, I did for 18 years, I photograph. And this was 1 year where I was photographed but didn't have the camera. That was the story. And then there was also the headline, what happens if we leave Afghanistan? And that created a whole lot of different conversations, which were important. And it was controversial. So many, many more people wrote about it. But I think that it benefited Aisha getting back to America. And I think it also benefited in open up a conversation. I don't know. I think that, yes, you can impact, because many times when I've had exhibitions, You know, I've received comments how it's impacted on the person that has viewed the exhibition. So, but will things ever change? No.
Mm-hmm.
To be honest, I see the same issues being photographed year after year after year by different photographers in different ways. But it's important to keep doing it.
Mm-hmm.
If we don't do it, nothing will, people will not be aware of it. But I think what's interesting in photography is that I love contemporary issues.
Mm-hmm.
So issues that affect everyone. You don't have to be rich. You don't have to be poor. It affects all types of different people and different people in different parts of the world. Well, I'm working on a beautiful project on the youth. I'm creating a project that I'm going to be using a different way to present the work. So I'm challenging myself on different ways to create work. Still using portraits, but adding other elements to it. Because I think we have those elements. So photography is not so strict and structured anymore.
Mm-hmm.
We can add other elements to the work. And so I think that's where my work is going. And it's still political, but in a different kind of way, but it is political. But I still, now I found this project,
mm-hmm.
I'm in love with it. Mm-hmm. And sometimes if you're a photographer and for a moment you lose your energy, you're not creative, that's okay.